Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this council meeting of Tuesday, the 17th of June, 2025 at the Euroa Conference Centre. I'm Claire Ewart-Kennedy, Mayor of Strathbogie Shire Council, and I will be chairing today's meeting. Before we proceed, Councillor Stevens will reinforce our councillor vision and values.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We will be a councillor group that delivers valuable outcomes for our community through teamwork characterised by respectful debate, collaboration, and the commitment to being inclusive and transparent. The councillor values will draw upon our respect, integrity, accountability, transparency, and responsiveness. Thank you.
Item 2, acknowledgement of traditional landowners. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the places we live, work and play. We recognise and respect the enduring relationship they have with their land and waters, and we pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 3, privacy moment notice. Public meeting is being streamed live via our website, Council Meetings and Minutes Strathbogie Shire, and made available for public access on our website along with the official minutes of this meeting. All care is taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, it is assumed that your consent is given in the event that your image is broadcast to the public. It is also assumed that your consent is given to the use and disclosure of any information that you share at this meeting, including personal or sensitive information, to any person who accesses these recordings or minutes. Item 4, governance principles. Council considers that the recommendations contained in this agenda gives effect to the overarching governance principles stated in Section 9-2 of the Local Government Act 2020. These principles are numbered 1 to 9 on page 4 and 5 of the agenda. Voting. If a meeting is open to members of the public or is being live streamed, voting on any matter may be by any method resolved by council that enables those in attendance and those watching a live stream broadcast to clearly see which way a council has voted at the time a vote is taken. In the absence of the council resolving an alternative method, voting on any matter is by a show of hands. Outline on how the meeting will work. We welcome the people in our public gallery and also those viewing this meeting through our live stream via our website. The meeting is being held in accordance with Strathbogie Shire's governance rules. If we have technical difficulties during today's meeting, which means we are unable to stream the proceedings to the public, we will continue with the meeting given the public gallery is open. If a councillor or officer has a conflict of interest in a matter, they will be asked to leave the meeting and no discussion on the matter will commence until we are sure they have done so. The person will then be contacted to rejoin the meeting after the matter has been considered and the vote concluded. The public gallery is reminded that as this is a public meeting, we respectfully ask that all attendees remain quiet and courteous during this meeting. And I also remind all those in the public gallery to ensure their mobile phones are on silent. 5, apologies, leave of absence. CEO Kotroki, are there any apologies or leaves of absence for today's meeting?
Councillor Scott, Jeffrey Mayor, be absent for tonight's meeting.
Item 6, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Councillors, I will take all papers as being read. That being the case, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest? Councillor Stevens.
Madam Mayor, I would just like to speak to one item, please. It's in relation to item 11.4.1 on tonight's agenda. The situation is I have a family member that is put in a submission to council in relation to budget consideration. That family member is a ratepayer, a member of the community, and quite entitled to do that. Under the Local Government Act 2020, there is an exemption that can be called upon, Section 129, where if the interest of the applicant that has made the submission is a general interest that is held in common with a substantial portion of the residents, ratepayers or electors, then it does not fit into the category of a conflict of interest. What I will do, the submission was a very general submission. It was speaking to public toilets, it was speaking to car parking, it was speaking to something that had no direct benefit whatsoever to the applicant. It was for the benefit of the broader community. But what will do tonight, just for transparency, is when that particular item comes up, even though I'm not declaring a conflict of interest for the section that I've quoted, I will leave the room while that particular matter is being voted on.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Stevens will leave the room. Okay. Item 7, confirmation of minutes decisions of the previous meeting. Confirmation of the minutes decision of the ordinary council meeting held on the 20th of May and confirmation of the meeting decisions of the extraordinary council meeting held on the 3rd of June. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? And can you state what your motion is? Councillor Holloway, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the recommendation on page 6 of our agenda be.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Is there a seconder? Councillor Stevens, thank you. Is there any opposition? Are there any questions of the officers? If there's no opposition, does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Thank you, councillors. I will now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? The motion is carried. Okay, we move to in time. Yes, okay. Beg your pardon. Mayor's report, item 9.1. What a month it has been. Whilst enjoying a host of local community events, my fellow councillors and I continue to advocate on your behalf across a number of important issues that affect our livelihoods and challenge our resilience. On a very positive note today is the culmination of 6 months of intensive work from your councillors and communities as we deliver the Community Vision 2035 and the 2025-29 Council Plan. The Council Plan is a strategic roadmap that will guide our work over the next 4 years and help us achieve our community's long-term aspirations. These aspirations are articulated in our Strathbogie Shire Community Vision 2035. We will create a thriving place to live, work and explore, where history and country are honoured, innovation is welcomed, our collective spirit makes us stronger and our natural environment is sustained for future generations. The Council Plan reflects our shared vision for Strathbogie Shire as a vibrant, inclusive and sustainable place to live, work, play and visit. Everything we do at Council is driven by this plan and guided by the values and priorities of our community. It also provides a framework to monitor our progress and report back to you, ensuring we remain accountable and transparent. This plan has been developed through consultation with residents, businesses, community groups, a working group, council staff and my fellow councillors. Your valuable input has ensured this plan is as unique and diverse as is our region. As a new council, I'm proud to say that along with council staff, we have invested a lot of time and effort in listening to your feedback and identifying the key needs of our community, which can only be achieved with long-term financial sustainability. This council has committed to delivering in the outcomes highlighted in these plans in a financially responsible manner. I want to thank my fellow councillors, community working group participants and our CEO, Rochelle Quattrocchi and her team, who have all been on this journey together. And I'm proud to present the Community Vision and Council Plan and other supporting documents to the meeting today for adoption. Our communities are facing some significant challenges right now, from ongoing drought conditions to cost of living pressures. And as councillors, we are united in our commitment to advocate for better outcomes across every platform available to us. This month, I had the privilege of chairing the Hume Region Local Government Network meeting, where I joined fellow mayors in calling for urgent and coordinated drought relief. On behalf of the Hume Regional Group of Councils, we proactively reached out to the Premier's newly formed Drought Response Task Force and written to Councillor Shane Sarley, Chair of Regional Cities Victoria, and Councillor Kate Macon, Deputy Chair of Regional Council Victoria, to advocate for the unique needs of both the Hume region and Strathbogie Shire specifically. They both sit on that task force and it's important we engage with them regularly. This past month, I've had the opportunity to represent our Shire across a range of major media platforms to advocate for our region on the issues that matter most: drought support and the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund Levy. I've worked hard to ensure the voices of our community are being heard loud and clear. I've contributed to several Euroa Gazette features and responded to and provide responses to media requests from the Age, Country News, the Herald Sun. Our messages are being heard both locally and nationally. We've also launched a new advocacy series to shine a light on the work council on your behalf. This series takes you behind the scenes of our conversations with state and federal governments and highlights the priorities we're pushing to ensure Strathbogie Shire continues to thrive. Because when we advocate together, we achieve more. On the 11th of June, we proudly joined the nation in marking Thank a First Responder Day. It's a moment to pause and reflect on the courage, commitment and compassion of the people who keep our communities safe, often under the very toughest of conditions. From CFA volunteers to SES crews, police, paramedics and countless support staff, their dedication means everything to us. In recognition, we invited all local emergency services volunteers to enjoy a free cup of coffee or tea on us for the month of June, a small gesture filled with deep gratitude. And can I say on a personal note, I've been contacted by people who unfortunately live out of the Council of Strathbogie who congratulated me personally on the initiative. So thank you to our staff for the wonderful initiative. In regional communities like ours, first responders are our neighbours, our friends and our family. They deserve both our thanks and our continued support. This month, I was joined by over 100 enthusiastic volunteers from across the Shire at Discovery Park, Nagambie for a special day of celebration, inspiration and relaxation to acknowledge Volunteer Week. The event, hosted by Council, honoured the invaluable contributions of our local volunteers and provided a chance to connect, reflect and enjoy the scenic beauty of the region. I was thrilled to announce the recipient of this year's Local Legends Awards. It says Maureen, but no one knows her as Maureen. So I'm just going to say Mozzie Fowler from Nagambie and David Carson from Longwood. Thank you to you both for all you do for our community. You're both rippers. Our great guest speaker, Sarah Barnbrook, shared her incredible journey in volunteering, which has taken her to the United Nations, where she now serves as an accredited delegate and speaker. Her inspiring talk offered a fresh perspective on the value of volunteerism and how individuals can truly make the most of their service. The day was a resounding success, a fitting and heartfelt celebration of the volunteers who give so much to our community in the Shire. What wonderful communities we have. We have to continue to support Australia's biggest morning tea each year across the Shire. In May, I joined a fabulous group at the Nagambie Lakes Community House for a very special morning tea, whilst Councillor Halsell joined the CWA in Euroa to celebrate with local residents in Euroa. I would also like to acknowledge our own Strathbogie Shire Council staff who hosted a biggest morning tea event and raised in excess of $400 for breast cancer charities. National Reconciliation Week is an important moment for reflection, respect and unity. On Sunday, the 25th of May, I had the pleasure of attending a community celebration at Strathbogie Reserve alongside Councillor Binks and CEO Rochelle Quattrocchi. With the Strathbogie Reserve Committee, I'm going to say this wrong, Bernunga, have I got that right? Bernunga Indigenous Fishing Club and the Victorian Authority, we join local families in a celebration of culture and connection, complete with fishing, live music, dance, storytelling, food and art. It was truly an uplifting day and a reminder of the power of partnership and place. On Wednesday, Deputy Mayor Scott Jeffrey and I had the pleasure of attending the Euroa cattle sale and meeting with local community members. It was an excellent opportunity to not only better understand the importance of this facility to our agriculture sector and regional economy, but also to talk to local farmers and residents about the effects of the drought and hear what we can do most to support our communities. And their direct feedback is feeding into what we do here at Council. Last week, Councillor Holloway and I attended an artificial intelligence conference in Wangaratta to discuss how AI can be used to leverage and grow business. The forum was a chance to hear from industry leaders and explore the opportunities and practical applications for AI in regional Victoria. It was a very informative day and a great chance to network with other regional industry leaders. I am constantly amazed at the capacity of our residents to support their communities through volunteerism, fundraising or just being available to one another. As councillors, we are committed to advocating on your behalf to ensure we have a strong and vibrant communities. Thank you. We now move to Item 9.2, councillor reports. Before we move on, I'd like to invite any councillor who would like to make a brief verbal report. Yes, councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Last Thursday, as you did indicate, yourself, Director Frampton, and myself had the opportunity to attend an artificial intelligence symposium conducted at Wango. While AI, as is commonly known, may seem a somewhat exotic topic for a rural player to be concerned with, it represents a transformational technology that is set to change virtually every aspect of our lives. It's not too extreme to say the rise of AI now will be as game-changing as the internet itself was a few decades ago. Much of the symposium discussed productivity gains and workflow changes resulting therefrom. These are important, but we are much more concerned with three other issues: security, governance, and ethics. Unfortunately, the symposium speakers touched on these only lightly or not at all, but they are absolutely critical for any organization and particularly a local government. With security, any question asked of AI is sending one's data to an unaffiliated corporation and quite likely a foreign one. The Privacy Act would cover parts of this, and are we ready for that? With governance, to what extent does an organization such as ours allow employees to use an intelligence in their work that is not their own? Do we need procedures, policies around this, or even prohibitions? And with ethics, which is probably the most important of these three, what ethical challenges do we need addressing when basing decisions on deductions that are not our own and indeed not even human? One of the key themes discussed was that most employees want to use AI to make their lives easier and their output better, and so we'll be using it off to the side whether we as an organization are ready for it or not. This, I think, is the most important takeaway. The technology is already here and will not wait for anyone. So we as an organization need to get our security, governance, and ethical frameworks firmly in place now in order to meet this transformational challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Holloway. Would any other councillor like to make a report? Councillor Binks and then councillor Carson.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. So as you mentioned, I attended the really fabulous event for Reconciliation Week at Strathbogie Shire itself, the CEO and council staff. The event was such a great partnership, not only between council and those other groups that you mentioned, but there was the Violet Town CFA and the Lions Club there as well. And I'd say it was a hugely successful day with so many locals turning up and people from afar to celebrate Yorta Yorta culture, our inclusive and resourceful community, and the beautiful natural environment that the Shedforth Reserve is and all that has been achieved in that space. It's been a real transformation of that space, and it was just such a fabulous appreciation and celebration of that space. Sunday the 15th of June was the beginning of Refugee Week, and this year's theme is Finding Freedom, Diversity in Community. On Sunday, I attended a picnic for peace at the Euro Arboretum, joining with many migrants, refugees, tourists and Australian citizens from near and far to celebrate the rich diversity that our multicultural community offers us. We had a shared picnic lunch with dishes from Iraq, Nepal, Indonesia, Italy, China, England and Australia. It was wonderful to celebrate the inclusive communities right here in Strathbogie Shire that open our arms to those seeking refuge, providing platforms of connection and a sense of belonging. And I want to thank the organiser, Liz Arcus, who's a co-founder of Picnic for Peace, for all her efforts to create, support and champion these inclusive communities in our region. And I encourage everyone to get engaged with other activities relating to Refugee Week 2025. July 6th to 13th is our National NAIDOC Week. This NAIDOC Week marks a powerful milestone, 50 years of honouring and elevating Indigenous voices, culture and resilience. The 2025 theme, The Next Generation, Strength, Vision and Legacy, celebrates not only the achievements of the past, but the bright future ahead, empowered by the strength of First Nations young leaders, the vision of Indigenous communities and the legacy of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ancestors. Council have provided funding to Aboriginal Active to celebrate NAIDOC Week with a free screening of 2 short films and a welcome to country from Taungurung Elder Auntie Jo Honeysett. The event is happening on Friday the 18th of July at the Aboriginal Memorial Hall, and I look forward to seeing my fellow councillors and many community members at the event. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Binks. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few short reports. One, I had a meeting of the Regional Library Corporation last week, and we've made good progress on the fundamental architecture of the new company that will be created on the 1st of July 2026. Constitution, make up the board, selection processes. It'll be a skills-based board, for instance. The chairman of the group will not have to be a councillor. There's a lot of flexibility and innovation being brought into the system, much more dynamic, I think. We had a pretty productive day, but of course the last issue is always the toughest nut to crack, and we haven't cracked that one yet, so I'll leave that to a later date. But nevertheless, it was a pretty productive meeting. Also went to a few draft forums, as I'm sure we all have, and there's the information is slowly but surely coming together. I think the community is waiting for decisions from the state government, but I should particularly like to congratulate our mayor on her efforts. They've been pretty substantial, a lot of time, a lot of meetings, and talking to a lot of different people. Her efforts on our community's behalf to work through what are complex issues, addressing this issue of drought, that's always a hard task. So I think we all owe that our mayor a debt of gratitude, so thank you. Good effort.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carson. I appreciate the sentiment very much. Any other councillor I'd like to say? No?
Yes.
Oh, you're yes? Yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah, just briefly wanted to say I echo Councillor Carlson's thanks to you. Your representation as our mayor and our leader in the media has been very strong, very consistent, and you're popping up all over the place. And I reference your opportunities in Melbourne as well as in our local country or our local regional media as well. I just wanted to thank the residents that have been contacting me, read the Purple Bins and the Frost Street underpass, and encourage people to continue to reach out to councillors because we do listen. I would also like to thank the local principals and some of the other groups like the Chamber of Commerce and Cricket Club representatives, the Secondary College and St John's for being available to make comment when I have sought community feedback for, to inform decisions that I need to make. So I am really enjoying the role of a councillor. I'm enjoying being part of this team, the leadership that the mayor is providing, and also being the conduit between our group and the community is actually it's actually quite a rewarding place to be at this point.
Thank you very much, Councillor House. Councillor Stevens?
I wasn't going to because we've got a busy night, but very quickly, I think something I would like to share. Last Friday, I attended the Golden Valley Road Safety Committee that I'm the representative on in Shepparton. And it's a great committee. It's got representation of our shire and other shires, but also Department of Transport and Planning, Hume Region, and another amount of stakeholders. So it's very interesting and beneficial. They were very, very pleased to hear that at our last meeting we voted to continue the school crossing supervisor at the Nagambie School Crossing, and we're very appreciative. They also acknowledge they know Goulburn Street well. They know that school crossing is not the only issue, so they look forward to any other mitigations or works that might come into the future with that as well. So they said to give that feedback, which I'm giving tonight. One other thing I'd like to pass on, we got all the statistics in relation to accidents and cause of accidents, etc. And unfortunately, the thing that is still sitting very high is distraction. And it's very concerning. The statistics are very concerning right throughout our region and right throughout the state. Distraction, mobile phones, distraction, fiddling with radios, just fiddling in general while you're driving the car. So there are some projects that are in the mix to move forward with a bit of education in that area. And I'm hoping that our shire can get on the list to get some sort of participation in that. And the other thing I wanted to say was just a heads up. There is a new law coming in on the 1st of July. And it's basically, at the moment you have to slow down if you see the police pulling over a car on the side of the highway when the lights are flashing, or an ambulance or something. Well, now it's going to be any vehicle that is pulled over on the side of the road for some sort of emergency response. It might be a tow truck picking up a broken down vehicle, or it might be some other issue that has come to attention and they need to put the flashing lights on. So you have to slow down to 40. And if you don't, the penalty is going to be significant and the points are probably going to be about 5 points. So get into the habit, please. If you see someone on the side of the road with flashing lights, drop down to 40. It's the feedback.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stevens. I'm ahead of you. I thought it was all vehicles. So there you go. That's very good. Thank you. I'll now move to item 10, public questions. Thanks to all those who submitted questions for the meeting today, and a reminder to submit your questions 30 hours prior to the council meeting. Before we commence with the public questions, council has had a number of emails rather than questions from concerned residents relating to the Frost Street underpass and the Shire swimming pools. Council acknowledges receipt of these emails, and these were discussed at the council briefing held earlier today. CEO Councillor, we will now proceed with our public questions.
Thank you, Mayor Ewan Kennedy. And one of our first questions is from Angela Berry. Angela, are you here with us today? Thank you, Angela. I will now proceed to read your question. What steps did council take to ensure Inland Rail takes responsibility for the remediation of Anderson Street, including the tree canopy? Angela, thank you for your question. Council officers have regular meetings with Inland Rail and have been doing so since the commencement of the project around 3 years ago, and work to minimise impacts on community infrastructure, including the tree canopy. Through this process, we have been able to work and have saved a number of trees that have been identified for removal. Officers continue to work with Inland Rail to replace trees removed, and where possible, taking into consideration safety and existing utilities. There are a lot of trees, just for information as well, that are not actually on council-owned land that have been removed as part of the project. But we do advocate very strongly for our tree across the Shire. Question 2, which is the second part of your question, Angela, I'll read out now. What is the total number and replacement value of trees removed in Euroa so far? Angela, thank you for your question. And further to the answer to the first question, in giving you a number, I didn't have that information for you right now. As I mentioned, there are a number of trees that also have been removed on land that is not actually owned by council. But I will actually stress that we do advocate very strongly to maintain any trees, not only on our council-owned land, but also in the vicinity of the site, and have ongoing conversations with Inland Rail. And we are advocating to maintain that tree canopy across the Shire. This includes trees that may facilitate detour routes and the new underpass. So there are trees that will need to be removed to make way for the new infrastructure, but anything in around that site, that's something that we do continue to advocate for. Approximately half of the trees, as mentioned, are on land that's actually managed by other agencies and it's outside council control. However, we do attend meetings with those stakeholder groups regularly. So the infrastructure director and together with myself do meet with Inland Rail regularly. And we will look at future opportunities as well to fund and replace trees that have been removed, particularly on council-owned land. Question 3 comes from Mary Maher. Is Marie here? Marie, sorry, I pronounced that differently. Thank you for your question, Marie. And you have 2 questions. The first question, why is the Shire's rate department always delaying in creating inquiries, now being over 6 months for one rate inquiry and over 11 years for another? Marie, thank you for your question. In talking to our teams, I understand that you have been in discussion with our rates officer and there has been ongoing communication about your inquiries. And if you're not satisfied for the information that you have been provided, I do encourage you still to talk to our rates department so that you can seek the information that you're after. I am aware that back in November, there's been correspondence back and forth, and also in June of this year.
It was this morning, and it's very sad, I have to add.
Maureen. Thank you. Not the public gallery, sorry, thank you. And afterwards, thank you.
I'd now like to read out your second question, which relates to Shire's roads. A local Shire road was taken over from Regional Roads Victoria in 2011 with money given to the Shire. And this road needs work done, and the council has done zero to date. When will the Shire attend to roads and monies that have been allocated to? Thank you again for your question, Marie. I am a bit unclear, and the team are a bit unclear about what the road is that relates to your question. I have asked our Infrastructure and Sustainability Director, Oliver McNulty, to make contact with you, Marie, to better understand what the nature of the question, the location of the road is in question, so that we can better respond. Question 5. Our next questions come from Tom Maher. Tom? Thank you for your question, Tom. And the first question is, what is the standard of the sealed and unsealed roads across the Shire? And answering your question, Tom, Council completes asset condition inspections of its road network every 4 years. The latest network inspection was in early 2022, and this identified that our road network is in a reasonable condition. Officers are currently developing documentation to go out to the market to get an up-to-date condition data that will help inform and prioritise the works program for our sealed and unsealed. It's anticipated this work will be completed by early 2026, and this will give us an up-to-date information on the condition of our road network. Further, we will be quarterly reporting on our capital works program. That is something we will look to do from September of this year, which will actually list the roads that are included within our program, and that will be made publicly available. Thank you for your question. Question 6. So Tom's second question is, and this is question 6 of our questions. Since amalgamation, the Rates Department has not provided professional accountability for the rate payers of this Shire. When will the requests I have made in relation to rates be attended to, now being well over 5 years to date? Tom, thank you for your question. And as mentioned previously, it's really appreciate if you can get in touch with our Rates Department. I understand that they have had correspondence with you more recently, and it is encouraged that you talk to the department directly so that they can, and they'll be happy to assist you with your requests. Thank you. That's the end of the questions, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. And I am going to remind the public gallery that out of respect for everyone, including those online, that we refrain from making commentary during the meeting. If you'd like to take up the opportunity to meet with council officers afterwards, please do so. Thank you very much to everyone for that. We now move to item 11, Officers' Report, and then we're moving to 11.1.1. Planning applications received and planning application determined 1st of May 2025 to 31st of May 2025. The purpose of this report is to report to Council on the current planning application activities and matters considered under delegation. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification of the officers before we proceed? No? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Housel.
I'll use the recommendation on page 7 of the motion.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Carlson. Is there any opposition? Would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Then I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Motion's carried. We now move to page 12, item 11.2.1. Contract extension, Belgravia Health Leisure Group Proprietary Limited. The purpose of this report is to consider the award of the fifth and final single-year contract extension for the management and operation of Council's 4 seasonal aquatic facilities pools in the Gambie, Euroa, Violet Town and Avenel for 2025-26 to the current provider, Belgravia Health Leisure Group Proprietary Limited, Belgravia Leisure. Councillors, are there any questions or clarification for the officers before we proceed? Councillor Halsall.
I just would like to clarify that this is a one-year extension, and in this next 12 months, what preparation will be done in terms of going forward with pool management?
Through the CEO.
Thank you for your question, Councillor. I'm happy to answer that on behalf of the officers. So this is an extension of an existing contract, and it's exercising the last extension of a year of that contract. And over the next 12 months, Councillor, we will work towards the procurement of that service on behalf of the community. We would seek, from the feedback we've received from the community, we'll take that into consideration as well, and what that service will look like going forward. We're a briefing paper coming back to the council for their consideration as part of the procurement strategy.
Do you have any other questions or clarification? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the recommendation on page 12 be accepted.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stevens. Is there any opposition? Would the councillor like to speak to the motion?
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. There are 2 areas of council operations which are always a significant cost to this organisation, and they are libraries and pools. And they've always been important, and they always will be. And that's just the nature of the beast in which we operate. The community have great affection for the community assets in either one of those 2 areas of operation. And this is a constant challenge because of the infrastructure, state of the infrastructure of the pools. You have to remember that a lot of these pools were built 50 years ago. And it's an ongoing challenge to keep them in operation. And also, of course, you've got the public risk liability profile has changed so much in the last 10 or 20 years. It's chalk and cheese to what it was in the old days, so to speak. So we have many challenges in the next 12 months to try and figure out what we're going to do about all of this. But in the meantime, we need to have the pools open next summer. And this is simply a 1-year extension, same hours, same operating standards what was there previously. And it's over the next 12 months that the real work will be done. And I think the Chief Executive Officer has elaborated on just what the process will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Any other? Anyone else like to speak to it? Councillor Stevens.
Thank you. I think Councillor Carlson has covered it exceptionally well. We know the pools are problematic. We know that they're highly valued. So we do have challenges ahead of us. But what's before us tonight is a continuation of the service to keep it open for the next summer. There was originally a 3-year contract with an extension option of 1, which was taken up, and now there's an extension option of another year, which is being taken up. But the important thing is we have noted the input from members of the community that are loving our pools and keen to be involved in the future of our pools. And as it's been identified by the question of clarification, the intention is over the next 12 months to continue to engage with the community, particularly the Friends of the Pools groups that have a lot of interest, that have a lot of passion, that have a lot of experience to be brought into this discussion as to how we might move forward beyond this 12 months. So I look forward to what's going to come back to us when that consultation takes place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anyone like to speak in opposition to the motion? I've asked that already, haven't I? Sorry, I beg your pardon. Okay, I will now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. We now move to page 18, Councillor, item 11.3.1, Frost Street Underpass. The purpose of this report is to seek council approval to accept a proposal from Inland Rail to remove the Frost Street Underpass as part of the Inland Rail project. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillor Hassel? That's all right.
My first question through the mayor is, where did the Biddy Street roundabout concept come from?
There you go.
Thank you for your question, councillor. I may pass that on to our Director of Infrastructure and Sustainability.
Thank you, CEO Quattrocchi, and through you there. This is part of the ongoing consideration in relation to road safety at the intersection between Railway Avenue and Binney Street. That currently people are concerned about the capacity to actually go down to Binney Street and actually do a U-turn and come back up Binney Street to find car parking. It is a difficult intersection. It is an unsafe intersection in this current format, and there is a no U-turn sign there because of the continual race about road traffic safety in the past. So as part of the ongoing consideration for improved traffic safety and pedestrian safety at that intersection, one of the options that we've been looking at is a roundabout or some sort of function that will serve a process to inform the community and inform road users of the safe use of that intersection. So it wouldn't be a full formal roundabout as such, but it would be a traffic treatment that will actually improve safety for pedestrian use and for traffic users.
Following on from that, Director McNulty, could you just let me know whether or not, if an idea like that was going to go forward, whether or not it would be presented to the community for consultation?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, that is something that we could do as part of detail. At the moment, it's very much a concept design, and I know it's part of the precinct master plan. So any future design elements, if council would like us to go out for a consultation on it prior to finalisation, that is something that we would definitely consider.
Director McNulty and Councillor Hassel. Any other questions for clarification? Oh, you had a few. Right. Okay. We might.
Well, do you want to?
No, we'll go to you,
Oh,
Councillor,
okay.
first, and then make sure everyone else has an opportunity.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. I just wanted to clarify regarding the current crossings, and I know that there's works happening. So in that rail precinct, and I'm just trying to understand that the Frost. Sorry, bit roundabout. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that the Frost Street underpass is going to be the Hanbury underpass, pedestrian underpass is already closed. The Frost Street one is going to be closed so that works can be done, and a temporary overpass, as it is, across the railway line has been created so that people can still cross the railway tracks, I guess, in a pedestrian manner while these works happen. Is that correct? And do you know roughly the time frame for that, for those underpass to be
For you, CEO.
I will direct that question over to Director McNulty to answer that.
Thank you, CEO, and through you, Mayor. In order for the works to progress, as they are closing to a single line, actually completing the line to move West Line to a new location, they will need to close both the Hanbury and Frost Street crossing for up to 2 to 3 months. So at the moment, the planned works Frost Street will have to close from roughly mid-July until mid-September. And also Hanbury, as you've already mentioned, Hanbury crossing is already closed. For the duration of that work, there will be the new overpass, and that will be maintained for the duration of the works, because there will be some future requirements to open and close whatever crossings are available during the duration of the works before the final work is completed and the new underpass at the railway station is complete.
Thank you. Any other councillor have anything to add? Yes, Councillor Holloway.
Following on from Councillor Halsel's question regarding the Binney Street, let's call it a quasi roundabout. If those works needs to be done in order to ensure vehicular and pedestrian safety, as was said. The recommended motion before us is to de-scope the Frost Street underpass with the expectation that most of those pedestrians would then use, call it the station precinct underpass, which is dumps out in Binney Street. But if there's pedestrian concerns there, how are we to be assured that routing the additional Frost Street pedestrian traffic there will be a prudent solution for their pedestrian safety?
Through you, CEO.
I will also direct that question to Director McNulty to answer.
Thank you, Councillor. Through you, Mayor. The works at the moment within the at the intersection of Binney Street and Railway Avenue is outside the scope of the Inland Rail project. So we have been, the precinct master plan project that we've also got going concurrently has been funded through the Department of Transport, and that has identified the opportunities for potential safety improvement at that intersection. But the actual crossing is outside the scope of Inland Rail project this time, and council would need to seek alternative funding opportunities for that work in the future.
Thank you, Director Mulvey. Any other councillors have a query? No? Councillor Stevens.
Just again through the chair to the director, most likely I would say. The hierarchy of decision making in relation to the project that's on the table tonight, which is the Frost Street underpass. It's a federal project. Pardon me. Pardon me. And my understanding is that federal can trump local government decisions. Is that a fair understanding?
Through you, Mayor.
Actually, I'll answer that question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. It is a federal project that's been delivered by Inland Rail, and it is the purpose being for the upgrade of freight in a safely manner. So a lot of the infrastructure that we've seen, councillors, it's right from Albury all the way down through Mitchell Shire as well. So it is a number of main intersection points that are actually being upgraded. In answering your question though, what's before you today is actually a decision of the council of part of the design that's been brought to us as part of a negotiated outcome from the engagement that's happened with officers. So that's what's before you today. But the project's not in question, councillor, or the decision making around the actual project.
Okay, no more questions. You do. I'm just going to refer to the CEO for one moment. Please go ahead, Councillor Russell.
Thank you. To the director of the report, so Ollie, can you confirm your report includes pedestrian usage? Can you confirm the times that were canvassed, because they're not in this report, and I know we did cover it, but I'm lacking that in detail. So it was Monday to Friday and a Saturday. Can you give me the times?
CEO.
Yes, we'll direct that question to Director McNulty. Thank you, councillor, for your question.
Thank you, councillor. Through you, Mayor. There was 2 stages of community counts done in, I think it's November 2024. There was a full week of counts carried out. I can't remember the figures exactly off the top of my head, but it was roughly 600 or 700 pedestrian movements over the course of the week, and it worked out an average of 60 to 70 per day going through the Frost Street and through each direction. So probably about 30 to 40 each direction each day. But that was carried out in 2024, as far as around November. That was over a 7-day period. After a discussion with council a number of weeks ago, I asked them to go back and look at a specific Saturday when there were sports events in the recreation reserve, and they did a further count on a Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. where they had cameras on Frost Street and looked at pedestrian movements through the underpass, and it was a total of around 70 a day. Again, that's through both directions, so about 35 movements in each direction. And we also measured which direction that people were moving once they got. So roughly 5 or 10 people moved in different directions, whether they were headed north, south, east or west during the course of the day. At that time, we got them to do some counts down at Charles Street to see if there was any pedestrian movements at Charles Street, and there was 4 or 5 during the course of the day.
Thank you very much, Director McNulty. Any other questions? One more.
That's not possible.
I'm just speaking some clarification on that, so you've got a bit of a moment. Council.
Okay, so the tree exists now happily with an underpass. The movement of the track frees up an additional 25 metres, which we confirmed today. The track was on the other side. Are we sure and are we absolute that all investigations have been done and design work done, in your opinion, that the tree must go? Should we go forward with a pedestrian crossing?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, this has been looked at a lot of times for the last 2 years, and with where we're at now, to build a compliant underpass, which would mean we have to reduce the existing underpass about 500 mil deeper than a current underpass is, and to make sure it's fully DDA compliant, which is a requirement of the funding of the project. Any infrastructure that's built is built to the standard of the day. And to have it built to that standard, which means 114 ramps, which would also mean that it's going to be longer than the existing infrastructure there, which would mean the whole thing will have to drop down and would also be wider to make sure it can accommodate pedestrian traffic in both directions, be 1.8 metres wide, which would bring it right into the drip line of the existing spectral race. And we've had inland rail arborists, independent arborists and our own arborists have looked at the potential opportunities for saving the tree if the new underpass was built, and it's the opinion of all 3 arborists that would not be possible.
Thank you, Director McNulty. Councillor Housel, do you have any more questions?
One. Yes.
One more.
Okay. In your report, you mentioned. Sorry, my question is about community engagement, and there's 2 parts. The first is community engagement. I find this is one a little bit tricky. You know, there are key stakeholders identified that have not had any engagement, no formal engagement, and there's no details of any indirect engagement. Given that, further in the report, that whilst there is a desire for further community feedback, is this not a situation where we can't possibly make a decision today on the basis that the key stakeholders have not been consulted? And we're talking about schools, sports clubs, disability and aged care and adjacent residents.
CEO.
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. And earlier today, councillors, we had a briefing from Inland Rail that actually spoke to the amount of engagement that they have actually undertaken with the community, and also the reports that are brought up here to the council throughout the project. Our understanding of that is that that's been quite extensive, whilst not all, probably the feedback has been provided to the community, and that's some of the feedback we have provided in Inland Rail. And we've asked for further engagement through the process as well, and continue to work closely with Inland Rail to make sure that the community voice is heard and they've got that opportunity. But my understanding in providing a response to your question is that there has been ongoing consultation with the community by Inland Rail since 2019.
Thank you, CEO Couatrocchi. Are there any more questions?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. If we accept this recommendation and we delete pedestrian underpass and save the tree, and that turns out to be wrong, is it possible, given our current Shire's circumstances, that we could correct this mistake in the future? Could we put in a pedestrian underpass to reinstate connectivity in the future?
Please, CEO.
Thank you for the question, Councillor. It is not our infrastructure, and the design is part of the project that's been undertaken by Inland Rail on behalf of the federal government. That would not be an outcome that we chat with them to reinstate a pedestrian crossing. However, in saying that, we do continue to work with our stakeholder groups in maintaining safe pedestrian passage outside of the project, and have had ongoing conversations with Inland Rail, ARTC, DTP, Department of Transport, and the other stakeholder groups to ensure that there is safety maintained right along the railway corridor.
Thank you, CEO Quattrocchi. Any more questions? No? On the basis of that, councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Carlson.
I recommend the motion be accepted on page 18, points 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Can I have a second? Councillor Binks, thank you very much. Councillors, would any councillor like to, is there any opposition? Mr. Step, Councillor Holloway, and then Councillor House. Well, no, we've got to go back to Councillor Holloway. Would you like to speak to the motion? No. Sorry, beg your pardon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would you like to speak?
Well, this is this is part of what is a complex project, and there's a lot of things going on at once. The report Council has before it is as detailed as it can possibly be at this time. And it clearly outlines the choices we have. And I commend the officers for the report. There's many pages there, and for those who are really interested in such, there are quite a number of matters to reference to, but to me, it clearly outlines the choices which we have. And to cut to the chase, the basic decision is a choice. Do we have a new underpass, incur an annual maintenance cost, and lose the tree that everyone's concerned about? The maintenance might not be much now, but it will be forever. And maintenance standards and costs can only rise. Well, we remove the underpass, don't do any maintenance required, and no tree is removed. I think that people should bear in mind that there was 2 pedestrian underpasses under the old scenario before the project commenced, and there will be 2 underpasses when the project is completed, except they've changed a bit. And that's hardly unusual in a project of this size. The Handlebury Street pedestrian station and the station underpass, comprising a ramp, stairs and a lift, will be the responsibility of Big Track or Inland Rail or whoever's running or managing the rail corridor at any time in the future. My position is that it's completely inappropriate that a municipality, particularly one of this size, should be responsible for maintaining an asset on the Melbourne and Sydney rail line. I can't see any justification for it. We have an operation. It's not as though we're getting a reduction in underpasses. We are getting a movement. There is change, to be sure, and some people will be upset by that. But change is hardly surprising when you get a project of this scale right and smack bang in the middle of the community. So that's my position. I don't want to elaborate any further. The report is there for everyone to digest. I think we've all had numerous discussions on this issue. And finally, I'd just like to congratulate Councillor Housel setting a new record for questions on a motion. I think it was 11. I'm going to go back through the tape and we'll report.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson.
No, that's my comment. That's my. Thank you, Madam.
Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
I will reserve my right to this year.
Councillor Holloway, would you like to, as the first objector, speak to the motion?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must speak out strongly against this motion to remove the Frost Street underpass from Inland Rail's scope. Deletion of this throughway will cause accessibility issues to our community for years to come. And to be clear, the offer is to completely de-scope the Frost Street underpass and not replace it with anything other than an earthen embankment and drainage. We have had a sad history of engagement with our community regarding the Inland Rail works. There has been a consistent pattern of this community being presented with a foregone conclusion rather than being meaningfully consulted. Now, unfortunately, this proposal bypasses community consultation entirely. Council has received a short notice offer to de-scope the Frost Street pedestrian underpass in exchange for a $350,000 donation to council, which is the crux of the motion before us. I am perplexed that Inland Rail would choose to cut the Euro community entirely out of formal deliberative engagement and present an offer directly to council. Of course, this saves Inland Rail quite a bit of time and work and puts the onus on council for a potentially unpopular decision. If council approves their offer, Inland Rail gets to drop a critical scope item from their remit with financial benefits to their project. Conversely, if council declines the offer, it falls on council's head that another significant tree supposedly needs to be removed. And I emphasize the word supposedly, per the only design that they have shown us. Why is this all so rushed, given that we are years into the project and years from these works being completed? Why did Inland Rail come directly to council rather than deliberative community consultation and give us so little time to consider? I'm told by extremely competent authority that a DDA compliant underpass could be built at Frost Street without the need to remove the significant tree, and in fact, without the need to get particularly close to doing so. I'm not an engineer, I won't opine, but the fact that Inland Rail has presented only one option to execute this scope item and done so as a fait accompli makes me think that there's something going on here. Or are we to believe there's no possible design whatsoever that preserves this tree? To add to the fishiness is the traffic study presented to council. Their initial presentation indicated that their team recorded that few pedestrians ever use this underpass. I, of course, asked the question, what were the hours of your traffic study? And the answer came back Monday to Friday during business hours, because, of course, that's when everyone goes walking. No one bothers with school or jobs these days. So we asked them to do it again, and they did it on a Saturday when there was a home footy game at the Oval, and fully 70 people utilized this underpass, 70. But incredibly, Inland Rail's data assures us that only single digits were actually going towards the Oval. The rest, they assure us, were going towards Binney Street and would be better served by the underpass at Binney Street. It's amazing how the data supports what is most expedient for Inland Rail. So the proposal of deleting Frost Street would route all pedestrian and cycle traffic via Binney Street. And we just heard that there may be safety issues there. Forcing all pedestrians, cyclists, skateboarders, wheelchairs, and what have you to use the much busier Binney Street is a safety hazard. Frost Street is much quieter and safer. Forcing everyone on the east side of town to walk significantly westward and out of their way to use Binney Street will also encourage many to seek ways to cut their journey. And the obvious route for east side pedestrians wishing to cut their journey would be the Charles Street vehicle underpass, which would also present a safety hazard. Frost Street's the only potential viable alternative. I believe that accepting Inland Rail's offer and allowing the deletion of the Frost Street underpass on a structure which literally divides Euroa is not in the community's best interest, either short or long term. The only acceptable course of action is to reject this motion, as well as calling on Inland Rail to conduct deliberative community engagement and to revise their engineering solution in line with community sentiment to provide an underpass that meets the scope criteria while preserving the significant tree. All of this is possible and there's ample time to do it. Council should not be stepping in to approve a scope deletion on an infrastructure item central to Euroa and about which our community should be engaged and heard. The Inland Rail infrastructure through Euroa is a once-in-a-lifetime change, so we need to get it right and not be rushed into mortgaging our community's future. I urge my colleagues to vote against this motion. Thank you. 5 seconds to speak.
Okay. Any other councillor like to speak for the motion? That's it.
Thank you. All of the councillors in this room and the staff have given considerable consideration to this particular item, as have the community that have contacted us, and we appreciate the feedback from the community. As Councillor Colson said, this is not an easy one. Strathbogie Shire has an extremely low rate base of 11,500 people, a population, and a geographical area the same size as Mitchell Shire that has a population of 60,000 people. We are struggling to meet our commitments financially. We're addressing that tonight with the budget as best we possibly can, but it will be an ongoing challenge. Any asset we have, I believe, is open to review, not to the detriment of the community per se. If there is a legitimate argument to keep an asset, then I believe we should. I think in this particular case, the asset being the underpass, the service that it provides can be equally provided in close proximity. I believe 140 metres, I'll stand corrected on the distance, but 140 metres further up the road. For those, and believe me, that 140 metres, I have considered that as well, because I have a mobility issue, I have a bung knee. So 140 metres sometimes can be quite considerable. So I haven't been disrespectful to the fact that that is 140 metres. I think, as Councillor Carlson has said, 2 underpasses currently exist, 2 underpasses will continue to exist, but slightly different location, slightly different format. The handling of this project is less than desirable, absolutely. The community consultation could have been more extensive. We have tried our best to build upon that. We asked for additional surveys to be conducted, and they were, and the council has spoken to the fact that there was more usage of the underpass than what was originally put before us. That's been noted as well. With the consultation that did take place, even though the schools haven't been consulted, the sporting clubs, the disability or aged care service providers and adjacent residents haven't been discussed, and that's not ideal. There has been consultation with people that have been physically walking through it, and I actually did that myself today. We were down there doing a site visit today on this, and that was my 3rd visit to this site, albeit I was in the wrong area initially. But in the proximity, so that I've done my homework to familiarise myself as best I can. 2 people walked through it while we were there, and I spoke to them and said, just out of curiosity, if you had to walk at that particular point, not this particular point, would that be an issue to you? And they both said no. Now, I know that's only 2 people, but I just thought I would take the opportunity while they're actually using the crossing as we were there. Interestingly, Euroa Connect, and I know Euroa Connect doesn't support everyone, but they are an active group that does give us good feedback on occasions. They were supporting the retaining of the existing ramp, and their focus was on the retention of the red gum tree. We understand that that's not an option if we were to continue at the particular site. Memorial Park Committee management does not support the removal and believes that children may attempt to cross at Frost Street if formal access is closed. Safety mitigations have been discussed with Inland Road in relation to that, so we have taken that on board. I don't think, whatever we decide tonight, I don't think is going to satisfy everyone. There will be some people that look at the logistics and the pedestrian movements. There'll be some people that look at the financial aspect and our ability to meet our requirements with the limited funds that we have. As for the suggestion of the contribution by Inland Rail of the 350,000, I can reassure you that is not my deciding factor. That is not what is making me make this decision tonight. It certainly would be of benefit to the broader community to have those funds to be able to put into projects that we currently can't fund now. Certainly the works that we're proposing at the end of Binney Street, that is a really problematic intersection and a dangerous intersection. We do need to escalate that. The initial works have been done on that. We don't have the money to do it. That is a piece of work that is on offer by Inland Rail to have that work done for us. That would also put in place a couple of pedestrian crossings which currently don't exist. So there are broader benefits to this particular project. The ramp that will be built will be
And I'm just giving you a 15-second warning.
DVA compliant, which is extremely important. There is so much more that could be said about this, but I just want the community to know it's not an easy decision, and I'm focusing mine on what I believe to be the best interests for the majority of the community
Thank you.
on this particular occasion. Thank you.
Councillor Stevens.
Thank you.
Councillor Halson, you would like to speak in opposition to the motion? Yes.
I've chosen to group my thoughts and ideas into a few different sections. The first one is consultation. Over 6 years, 2019 to now, the community has strongly advocated for greater connection, greater services to both sides of the railway and beautifying the railway landscape. The idea of deleting Frost Street underpass arose 12 months ago, we heard today. Why did we find ourselves in this position? It is not us that need to order materials. Key stakeholders, as noted in the officer report, have not been consulted. We are regularly criticised about our consultation efforts. Affected residents, sporting clubs, local businesses, the Chamber of Commerce. I reached out to school principals today. We have made decisions under pressure. The pressure is created by others. We have reflected on our process and thought that with more consideration and time, we might have made different decisions with greater consideration. Council's already been scrutinised. We only become aware of consequences later. Lack of consultation, but why? If this proposition was thought of a year ago, is Inland Rail's last minute tree barter, we need to order materials as soon as possible. This is not a style of interaction I wish to support or encourage. Sell out our community access to avoid a maintenance fee. Councillor Carlson, I can't support that concept. For the future, we have a sporting precinct plan to expand and upgrade. We recently upgraded a playground in that very area on the other side of the railway line. We're seeing infill development in that area now. We're seeing new units under development. The need for connectivity is increasing, not decreasing, nor stagnating. As confirmed by our CEO just moments ago, once this is gone, that's it. It's lost. The connection is gone. The consequences, loss of community confidence in maybe council taking an inland bribe, loss of community connectivity, disregard for 6 years of consistent feedback for connectivity, loss of amenity for a pocket of Euroa that has been disadvantaged already with an absence of services and a disconnection from Binney Street, compromised safety, greater risk of exposure of kids crossing over the railway tracks, greater risk of exposure for kids using Charles Street vehicle underpass, a roadway that is not suitable as a shared roadway for vehicle and bikes or pedestrians. What if we get it wrong? Could council correct the error and put an underpass in the future? My advice is, again from the CEO and a local engineer in the street today, no, it'd be a significant undertaking and highly unlikely to get done. What are the opportunities if we upgrade and instate a shared trail with pedestrians and cyclists? Real improvements to current accessibility. That's on our council plan. Important alternate route to the station underpass as a shared pedestrian load. Shared path for bike and pedestrian, which is a great improvement for what it is now. Connection to our current sporting grounds, memorial, cricket nets, friendlies, tennis courts, and our future precinct plans. Fitness link for exercise, 2 underpasses, connected by footpath stairs, encourage residents to be active and healthy on our public health and wellbeing plan, supported by a gym right there in the middle. What are the risks if we don't get this right? What responsibility will we accept if a pedestrian is struck by a car? What responsibility will we accept if a pedestrian is struck by a train? What responsibility will we accept if the kids adopt the station underpass as a skate park and older residents have no alternative, or vice versa? I implore my fellow councillors to refuse to accept the pressure put on council to make significant decisions to an unreasonable timeline. 12 months is plenty of time to facilitate appropriate consultation with key stakeholders. Deleting this pedestrian crossing is not a future-proofing step. We are encouraging the settlement of families in this section of town with the upgrade of the Centennial Playground. Families should be encouraged to walk and bike around town. We need to support our children and residents to travel independently and safely to their school activities, their after-school activities and their employment. This is about the loss of connectivity in the community, and it is a permanent loss that won't be brought back.
Councillor Halsall. I'm actually going to take just 30 seconds to speak. As much as I find it very difficult to admit speak for the motion, and the main reason for me is we're a council that is coming out of a period of a very severe hit on our reputation to our community and our council, and our job is we must work with stakeholders. It's not ideal. What Director McNulty has done, I believe, needs to be acknowledged. He has navigated a very choppy pathway to get to a position that is less than ideal. And I'm not saying it is, but sometimes in council, and that's why we sit here, is we have to make the best decision for the future of our community. For the future of our community. This is not, and I'm very strong on saying the $350,000 does not factor in at all with me. It's irrelevant. And in fact, I'm very clear on that. And if anyone would like to have a discussion with me after council, I'm very happy to do that. But the reality is we're now in a situation where we must move forward. This is not our project. It's a federal project with a state government body to put it through. We don't have a choice in the sense that even if we say no, things can be forced upon us to do. It doesn't mean we can't fight back and we shouldn't advocate. That's what we do. This is a very, very difficult decision. And I believe that as Mayor, I must demonstrate some sort of leadership to work with our stakeholders. And that is the paramount factor for the fact that I would very begrudgingly support the less than ideal, but the best outcome moving forward for the community. Okay, on that note, seconder, Councillor Binks, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thanks, Mayor Hewitt-Kennedy. I mean, it's been said by everyone here that, you know, and I think you said it perfectly, this isn't our project and the engagement has been less than ideal. And I think we all know and acknowledge that. I think it is really challenging to be put into this position to make a decision under what feels like duress. But with the information that we've been presented, we have an option of saving a significant gum tree that we know is of value to our community and our natural environment, and something that I take very seriously. And in saving that tree, we lose one underpass, but we gain the one, as Councillor Stevens has mentioned, 140 metres further away, but with greater access, including a lift. And we don't accept this recommendation as is put before us. We get an upgraded underpass, but as we've been advised multiple times today in our briefings from officers, that is the design that Inland Rail have presented to us is the design that they will go ahead with, and that there isn't an opportunity to rework that design. That has been made really clear to us. And so because the option that has been presented is less than ideal for me, I think that it's kind of choosing the lesser of two not great options. And I'm really support my fellow councillors in their disappointment in the engagement on this, because we have worked so hard for our community and advocated so hard to Inland Rail for improved community consultation and meaningful consultation, and finding out today that it was on the table 12 months ago and it just came to us, you know, a couple of weeks ago now, and even then Officer McNulty did an incredible amount of work pushing out that day. I think we had a 2-week turnaround initially. That got pushed out. I know he's done a mountain of work as well to negotiate up the offer, even though that's not playing into the decision, that we are coming out of this better than what was originally presented to us. And I know that he's worked and continues to work really hard with this stakeholder group to ensure that we get really great, better, as best as we can, outcomes for our community when we have this large infrastructure project coming through our community. And I think, you know, that there's going to be, we're not going to know, we're never going to know the answers to all the questions that we've had today. We can't know those things, and some of them we can't know until we've made the decision. But I think, you know, thinking around the financial sustainability of this council, the volume of assets that we own and maintain is large. It is a tough decision, but it's going to be a decision we're going to have to make in the future, I believe, is this asset rationalisation and how do we justify the assets that we maintain or the assets that we keep. And whilst this one has perhaps been foisted on us and without the sort of process that we would have perhaps preferred, I think that it's going to be one of those tough decisions that we're going to have to make and trust in our officers' great work that we're going to get really good outcomes for our community in a not ideal set of circumstances.
Councillor Binks. Councillor Carlson, as the mover, would you like to exercise your right?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, I think everyone around the room has clearly articulated that it's not the sort of environment we would like to sit down and make a decision. It's probably the least worst choice to make. We're in the hands of, we're in a situation where we do not have control. It's not our project. This is a national project connecting 2 capital cities and combined population of 10 million people, railway infrastructure. We don't always get what we want, and this is a particular occasion where we can't get what we want. We do have a choice. We can either accept the resolution before you, or you can not accept the resolution. But if you do, NRA and Rail will proceed with their original design. The council will incur the liability and the tree will go, and they'll just simply move on. That's unfortunate. That's not something that makes us very comfortable, but nevertheless, that's the environment which we had to work. Now, in terms of connectivity, yes, there is a reduction in connectivity in one Pacific area, and it's been replaced by connectivity in another Pacific area. But the project itself has had an enormous increase in connectivity in this community. Removal of the southbound railway line, there is now a direct link from Railway Street to the station and all that public land between the two. That was removed 60 years ago. And we all know it's been an eyesore since it was ever built. But it was a national railway project and they simply built it. And the council could get whatever they could get out of it at the time. That's all been reinstated. That's all been reinstated. And I think that's a tremendous step forward. There's enormous potential in that end of Betty Street now, whereas before it was, they call the southern end of Betty Street the Paris end. I don't know what they call the northern end, but it certainly wasn't Paris Street, the Paris end of the street. So I recommend that you accept this recommendation. I don't do so with any great enthusiasm, but I think it's the right thing to do, and I think it's necessary that you do so we can deal with this issue and then move on. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Okay, we're now going to put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried.
Madam Mayor, a request to division, please.
Absolutely. Just bear with me while I get my notes. Council decision. So I'm going to ask for a vote again on the motion, and I will call out the names. All those in favour? Councillor Carlson, Councillor Binks, Councillor Stephen on the run, and myself, Councillor Ulicanny. All those against? Councillor Holloway and Councillor Halsall. I know you shouldn't have to write on those name tags, but under pressure you do. Thank you very much, Councillor Holloway. Is that all the admin done for that? Yes. Okay. We're now moving on to item 11.4.1, summary and responses, integrated plans and submissions, page 24. The purpose of this report is to consider the formal written and verbal submissions received through the final community engagement round and associated responses to each submission prior to finalising and adopting the proposed strategic plans.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor. I'll leave the room.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
You've got two. Again,
I've
Tom.
just got to close the door because Councillor Stevens has excused herself from this.
Leave the room.
Okay. Councillor, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? No, councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, to state what your motion is? Councillor, Councillor Carlson. Twenty-four.
Yeah.
Are you all moving it?
Oh. Yeah, well, it's just, you know, I'm very old sometimes. Sometimes I'm very old. I beg your pardon, Madam Mayor. I move that the recommendations on page 24, number 1, and continuing on page 25, 2 and 3 be accepted.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carlson. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Biggs. Is there any opposition to the motion? No? All those in favour? Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry, I went a bit quick then, didn't I? Mover, would you like to speak to the motion?
Well, I think it's purely basic in its intent. It's very voluminous in words, but the bottom line is it clearly refers to, come on, where I am. Submissions. I'm accepting the officer's recommendations. Summary of submissions contain attachment 1, which seems pretty well self-evident to me, so I have no problems with it at all.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carlson. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? Yes. Seconder. And reserve your right, did you?
No. I'm happy to speak to the motion. Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. Look, I just want to thank all the people that participated in this. This is sort of the second round of engagement on these documents. We've had the initial much more in-depth and out there kind of engagement, especially around our community plan. And those more longer term plans that happened earlier in the year. And it's really fabulous to see some further submissions that were received, as well as some suggestions, which there's a summary of what has been incorporated into the documents as a result of that. And I really want to thank everyone for their time and commitment to contributing to this. It is these are significant documents, and it's really great to see participation in the process.
Thank you, Councillor Biggs. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Halson.
I would like to thank the community and thank those people that did go to the trouble of making submissions. There was lots of detailed work done. It's really nice to see that when you sit on this side of the bench and you go through the process, and there's a lot of time invested, both from councillors and from officers, particularly officers. Can I say officers again? There's a lot of work from the officers in collating all of the information and taking your views as community members on board, and having that communication channel, that reciprocation of effort is a really nice open channel of communication, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. No other councillors wishing to speak to the motion? No, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Councillors, we now move to page 57, item 11. I beg your pardon, sorry, yes, we need to bring Councillor Stevens in. Okay, thanks, Mark. We now move to item 11.4.2, 2035 Community Vision. The purpose of this report is to present the proposed Community Vision 2035, Council's consideration and adoption. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? No? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Halsall.
I wish the recommendation on page 57 to be the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holloway. Is the motion opposed, or does any councillor wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Halsall, yes.
What I've learned over the last 7 months is that a community vision is about setting a framework and a leadership direction. What pleases me most about our community vision is that we are thriving where we live, work and explore, which means we're catering for our residents, our people that work here and our tourists. We are certainly respectful of where we've come from and the country that we all inhabit. We are innovative and working together as one is one of the most important things that I think we are living and breathing, and that our Mayor is doing on our behalf at the forefront. So I think our community vision is absolutely
Thank you, Councillor Halsall. Holloway, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I just would like to briefly say that I am very pleased with the way this community vision turned out. And I would like to note that in the process to create this community vision, it was entirely distilled from community submissions. There's not one word in there that was dreamed up by the people around this table. All these words came from the community, and I think it's a very good statement that is representative of our community and their vision.
Thank you, Councillor Holloway. Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No, well, I'm going to speak to it very quickly. This is one I'm very proud of. I think it took a lot of time for the officers to collate the information in a format that was okay for us to interpret as a very new council group, and we went through quite an intense process. I do really want to say thank you to the cooperation between the council group, council officers, and the community feedback has been a culmination of all the important stakeholders and people who really genuinely care about our community, wanting to give back and make sure we've landed a community vision that represents us all. And I believe we've achieved that. So I say thank you to everyone for working together. Thank you. If any other councillor wish to speak? No? On that, no, I will motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Councillors, we now move to item on page 62, 11.4.3, 2025-29 Council Plan. The purpose of this report is to present Council Plan 2025-29 Council Plan, incorporating the Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, Disability Action Plan and the Annual Action Plan 2025-26 Annual Plan for Council's consideration and adoption. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? No? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Binks, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Kennedy. I'd like to move a motion as is printed in the recommendation on pages 62 to 63 of our agenda this evening.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Carlson. Carlson, I said.
Got my name already.
Is there any opposition or would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Biggs.
Thanks, Mayor Kennedy. So this is sort of, I guess, the first of the many strategic documents that we're going to be working through this evening. And this is a really significant document as it is our 4-year council plan, out of which our annual action plans fall, and they're both attached to this item. So we've got the council plan and then this coming new 25-26 action plan. I think what I really like about this council plan is its simplicity. So we have the 3 themes: connect, sustain and deliver. Connect, we talk about we are committed to enhancing access for all residents, promoting healthy living, fostering connections and providing opportunities to thrive and participate in community life. With sustain, we aim to cooperate with others to foster a sustainable environment, a thriving economy and resilient communities. And under deliver, we are committed to delivering quality services and infrastructure that meets the needs of our community. We aim to strengthen council's governance and provide improved customer-focused experiences. It is a strategic document, so you won't see a lot of detail in there. And that's where the annual plans sort of fall out of that, and we get more of the detail each year we go through. But I think having it at this high level of strategic direction, which is our role as a council, enables us that sort of that flexibility to be able to bring in projects which we maybe hadn't foreseen. This, you know, it might come to 2029 and there's an opportunity which wasn't mentioned in our council plan and we won't be able to do it. That had happened in the 2016 to 2020 council plan. I experienced that and it was quite limiting. So I think there's an opportunity in that we're at that strategic level where we're setting the direction, and it is then handed on to our CEO and our fabulous officers to deliver that at sort of the operational level. So I think it's a really great framework. I think it also, the fact that it encompasses our municipal health, public health and wellbeing plan and our disability action plan, enables us to ensure that those parts that we are required to deliver it from a legislative perspective are embedded within our council plan throughout the full 4 years that this document will be active for. And I think that that is a really significant choice to make, and I think it's a really important choice to make because it's not sort of having those parts of our legislative requirement there as an afterthought, but rather embedded within our overall plan. There are a couple of, sorry, I'm just getting through my documents. There's a couple of things in our annual action plan that where are my notes, that I'm really excited about, and I'm just picking one from each one. So in Connect, I'm really excited that we're going to seek opportunities to collaborate with the Taungurung Land and Waters Council, the Yorta Yorta Native and Aboriginal Corporation on initiatives of mutual benefit. Under sustain, it's really great to see those advocacy items in there, those advocacy actions. We know that advocacy is absolutely critical for our Shire. We need to advocate to stakeholders, other levels of government, to ensure that we can deliver the projects that we would like to deliver and that our community expects of us. And under deliver, it's really exciting to see the development of the asset management framework. We know that assets are a major part of our Shire, and they take up a significant amount of our budget and our officers' time and our thinking. So seeing that in there is I think a really great thing to see coming out in this next 12 months. Thank you.
Thanks. Councillor Carlson, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, look, it's unfortunate the gallery who came along to see the fireworks didn't hang around a bit longer and see what is a voluminous piece of work. But at the end of the day, it's pretty dry reading, to be sure. They might not be heavily engaged in the political process. But the bottom line is, it is the manual. It is the numbers and words which we are held to account to, and they are important. And I think when you turn to page, Councillor Binks has addressed the council plan, but of course it's part of a whole suite of interconnected publications. And on page 64, it lays that out. And I'm sorry that the topic's not here because it just shows you how detailed and interconnected the whole process is, from going from the top, from the vision, right down to the actual practicalities of the allocation of, what are relatively minor sums of money. It all flows if you sit down and quietly work your way through it. And I'm sure that someone will, and that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. The staff have done a marvellous job because, in fact, all the council did, because let's face it, we all got a little bit tired there at some stage, and we put up with each other, and the staff put up with us, and that was really good because this work had to be done. It wasn't optional. I mean, this is something that you've got to do, and sometimes the members of the community just don't get that. They don't understand that, and that's really quite sad because it consumes a lot of our time and thought process. And so we'll try and stick to it, Councillor House.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carlson. Would any other councillor like to speak to it? Haven't you? Oh, no, you haven't. Sorry, I've got you now. Sorry. Yes, Councillor.
Through you, Mayor, your committee. I would like to, this is council plan. Yeah, I would like to extend my gratitude to Director Tingay and Frampton for all of their work and their team's work in supporting us to come up with this document and the efforts with the community. It was absolutely a very large body of work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Stevens.
Everything's been said very, very well by two experienced councillors over there that really understand this document and the purpose of it, and by a newer councillor acknowledging the work involved. So I'd just like to reiterate all the comments, and seriously, thank you to the staff, thank you to the community, and thank you to the councillors, old and new, that have battled through this new process. But this is basically the Bible. This is very much a guiding document that we will refer to or back to, and the staff will refer back to regularly. So it really is important. And yes, it is a bit dry, but a glass of wine and some popcorn and you might actually sit down and have a look at it, because it's worth it. If you really want to know what council are going to get up to over the next few years, and what our thinking is and how we hope to move forward, it's in here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. Okay, no one else would like to speak to the motion? No, okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Motion's carried. Sorry, that wasn't a statement, that was a question. Councillors, we're now moving to item 11.4.4 on page 102, 2025-2035 asset plan. The purpose of this report is to present the final asset plan for Council's consideration and endorsement for adoption. Council, is there any question of clarification before we proceed? No, Councillor, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Hassel, thank you.
I would like the recommendation on page 102 to become the motion. So 102, bottom of 102 and the top of 103.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holloway, thank you. Councillor, is there any objection, or would any councillor like to speak to the motion? Yes.
This, ironically, is the document I'm most excited about. Before coming onto council, and even now in my current role, assets, roads, maintenance, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? Rubbish is one of the most questioned. I have been reassured and very excited about the efforts, the processes, the strategy development, and the value that Director McNulty has brought to the team in coordinating and leading the team forward. This is, I think, was one of our greatest deficits, and now I think into the future it should be one of our leading strong points. So that's where I sit with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. Councillor Holloway, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would like to echo Councillor Halsall's comments and say this is a document that is not as, call it sexy as the council plan, but is really the framework by which we're managing one of the core duties of this Shire. And I will echo and add to Councillor Halsall's statement that this framework outlined in this document is a vast improvement of what we had previously. And it's actually quite exciting in a boring sort of way. Thank you.
But it is.
Well summed up. Thank you, Councillor Holly. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Binks?
Yeah, just briefly, I'm equally excited about this. This is something that the previous councillor had identified. I know that staff have been working on this for I think over a year now, and there's been lots of input behind the scenes to get us to this point, and it's been really a huge team effort from the officer perspective. So there's been lots of people involved, and I just want to extend my thanks to everyone that has been involved over the course of getting us to this point. And I think it's really exciting to see where it will lead the council and how it will improve our delivery, both of new, but also maintaining our existing assets. It's not a very thrilling thing, but it's totally important and absolutely in our wheelhouse. So yeah, I'm really excited.
Thanks. Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No. I'm now going to put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. We now move to item 11.4.5 on page 134, adoption of 2025-26 budget revenue and rating plan and 2025-26 fees and charges and declaration of rates and charges for the 12 months ending 30th of June 2026. The purpose of this report is to present the 2025 budget fees and charges, 2025-26 and revenue and rating plan 25 for council's consideration and adoption and declaration of the rates and charges for the 12 months ending 30th of June. Councillors, are there 30th of June 2026, sorry. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? No. Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Holloway.
I would like to move the recommendation as printed on pages 134 through 138 inclusive, which like you, so I won't bore you out by reading all of that.
Please don't read it out.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Carson, thank you. Are there any objections or would any councillor like to speak to the motion? No?
Oh, are we at that point?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to very, very briefly say that a lot of work has gone into this document too, particularly the budget. The budget as it is turned out for 2025 through 2026, I would say is a transitional year, and it's a move in the right direction to get back to long-term financial sustainability, which I think we were off course and we are now strongly on course again for good financial governance of this Shire. The revenue and rating and fees and charges just feed into the budget as the overarching document. So very pleased with all the work that officers have done to get us to where we are on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holloway. Councillor Carson, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, thank you. This is the meat and potatoes in the whole business. In terms of you can drill down and you can look from the balance sheet right down into what it costs you to sell a cow in the sale yards. It's a comprehensive document outlining all aspects of our financial environment. And as Councillor Holloway said, we came in fairly confused, I should imagine, about our financial status and environment. And I think this is a giant leap forward as a base. As I said, it's a transitional document in many ways, but I think it's a really solid base, and there's been some really excellent work to bring this amount of order to our public documents such as this. Very well done. Thank you.
Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Councillor Halsall.
In keeping with my current comments. I just want to extend my gratitude to Andrew and his team. This has been one of the most challenging of documents for me to watch. It's certainly not in my area of expertise, but I have watched the Andrew and his team and councillors really kind of grapple with different views and they've been able to work through successfully draft, redraft. There's been very open communication. It has been a very transparent process and it's one that I think it should provide the community with the reassurance that actually there is quite a very open communication and a very good relationship between council and officers. And Andrew's preparedness to take that feedback and rework has been really, really positive.
Right. Thank you very much, Councillor Hustle. Any other councillor like to speak to the motion? No? I'll now put the motion to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. Page 212, councillors, we now move to item 11.6, 2025-2035 financial plan. The purpose of this report is to present the financial plan 2025-2035 for council's consideration and adoption. Council, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? No. Council, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please? Would you state what your motion is? Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the recommendation as printed on page 212 of our agenda.
You, Councillor Holloway, can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Household. You. Is there any opposition or would any council like to speak to the motion? Councillor Holloway.
Yes, very briefly. So the financial plan is a 10-year extension of the budget, which is basically a 4-year document. So we have gone to great care to ensure that the positive trends beginning in June 2026 forward continue on for the following 9 years in terms of our forecasts. The only thing I would say is this is a good forecast. So we need to ensure that operationally we can meet this forecast. And if we do, we will be financially sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holloway. Councillor Household, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I just want to say, Andrew, well done on the rates. And I think my comments were actually to the wrong report. So if you could just swip them. Just flip them around, that'd be great. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? No, I'm going to very quickly say something. As Mayor, I think we've done an enormous amount of work and it couldn't be done without the work of the officers. And I know everyone's applauded them, and I have thanked them individually, but I would like to publicly acknowledge them and the work of, feedback from the community. But in regards to this financial plan, at the core of this council when we came in was financial sustainability and accountability and being financially responsible. Our visions sit on the wall. Councillor Stevens spoke about them. We established our council vision, our council values. I believe the council financial plan for 2025-2035 supports exactly what we have undertaken to do. And I want to thank every one of my councillors for working alongside me to get to the point we are tonight, because it's a pretty monumental effort for a new council. So thank you. I don't want to say any more except the only thing we've got to do now is make sure we achieve all the goals and all of the parameters. So that's now the hard work begins. So thank you very much. If no one else would like to speak to the motion, I'm going to put the motion to a vote. All those in favour, the motion is carried. Councillors, we now move to item 11.4.6, records of informal meetings of councillors May 2025. The purpose of this report is to note the record of informal meetings of councillors from the 1st of May 2025 to 31st of May 2025. 31st of May 2025. I'm getting my years confused. Councillors, are there any questions of clarification before we proceed? Councillors, we have a recommendation. Can I have a motion, please, and state what your motion is? Councillor Stevens.
The motion is as per the recommendation on page 237. The council notes the record of informal meetings of councillors from the 1st of May 2025 to the 30th of May 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Stevens. Can I have a seconder?
I wasn't there.
Maybe make a correction to the 31st of May.
No, what did I say?
It's just no in their recommendation.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
30th.
1 days in May.
Yeah.
Mine it says 31.
No, it's in.
Oh, in the papers in front of me.
Recommendation.
Okay, beg your pardon. Well, I've got the right one. Sorry.
Yeah.
But thank you for
Accept that correction.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Bigg.
Thank you. Thank you for the pick up.
Would any councillor, is there any opposition or would any councillor like to speak to the motion? No? Councillor Stevens?
Yeah, just very quickly. Look, I think this is a document that I hope the community do have a look at occasionally. If they want to know what we do, this is one of the ways of finding out what we do. It shows the attendance of councillors and staff to meeting, and it shows the presentations and the discussions that have taken place. So I think it's a good overview of some of the business of council. I'd just like to recommend it to the community.
Thank you, councillor Stevens. Would any other councillor like to speak for the motion? No? I will now put that motion to the vote. Those in favour? Carried. 11.6, communications, engagement and advocacy. There are nil reports. There are nil notices of motion. There are nil notices of rescission. There is no urgent business. There's no confidential business. Item 16, the next ordinary meeting of Strathbogie Shire Council is scheduled to be held on the 15th of July 2025 at the Euroa Community Conference Centre commencing at 4 p.m. There being no further business, the meeting closed at 5:55 p.m.